Okay, so we're talking to Ross and Maria Munro. Please tell my audience the plot of your documentary short film, Sisters.
Well, it's Maria's her first time directing, as she's been a producer of all of our films, and so basically it just tells the story about her journey going back to her native Venezuela to search for a long lost sister.
That's right. And why do you believe this tale has emotional resonance?
Well, it's about family secrets and longing for connection. So I think it has resonance with people. What do you say?
Well, yeah, I would say like I know we've already shown it at a few festivals, and I think obviously like look, everybody has something to do with family. Like we're all coming from families, so all
Siblings.
all the families have dynamics, and so we've had a lot of people like in post screenings come up to us after Q and A's, and especially going to Maria and saying, oh, I had similar situation where I found out I had a sibling later on in life, or I had like there's a lot of people out there that have those kind of stories that were very similar to what Maria put in the movie Sisters.
Very nice. And to build on that, what is the nicest compliment you've received about the film?
Well, we had a review saying that it's the perfect movie.
Yeah,
The
well,
perfect movie.
yeah,
I thought, well, he was very kind, but
yeah. That was my brother that gave us that review. But you know what? For me, like it's we've had a lot of like more for me. It's more like the feedback. Like we've actually had at some of our screenings where we've showed, like we just showed at the Victoria Film Festival. We've had people come up and approach us after the Q and A because they obviously see that who we are, and we've had people like just almost come up in tears because it really struck a real emotional chord with their situations.
That must
yes.
be very rewarding.
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit of camera shy, but I'm doing my best here to.
Yeah, I mean, it is nice. You know what? It's just that's one of the reasons why I think it's so important. Like when filmmakers really want to get into film festivals, it's just really one of the important things is just to get that connective tissue where you actually get to get that feedback, that immediate feedback from audiences, which you can't get if you just put something streaming or whatever. Like so that is one of the biggest things about film festivals. That's very rewarding, I think.
Yeah, it was so heartwarming to have questions, to people to really wanted to know about my sister, whether my family have seen the film. They were engaged into the story.
Very nice. How long did it take to make the project?
The project is. I thought about the very first moment that I uh, thought that I had a sister. I thought I should tell this story, but really, really started about 2 years ago that I started thinking more and more. I need to tell this story. I wanted to, since she actually lived her entire life in the shadows, I wanted to bring her to the light of, to everybody to know about her story, her life. And even though she's not here, I feel like she's gonna feel it, whatever she is. And she has children that will see that. So it about 2 years, sorry.
Yeah, and I would say like just on like a lot of the inspiration is in the early part of that 2 years for Maria, like the story actually developing, and but I would say just on a practical level, as far as filmmaking goes, it probably about a year
1 year.
from when we started actually like piecing the film together and really creating all the visuals. And as you know, there's a little bit of animation, original animation. So there was a lot of pieces we had to put into the film. So probably a year between from the time we started actually physically editing and putting the film together, working with our editor, and then doing all the sound design, sound mix, music, everything. So about a year, yeah, for in terms of the practical elements of making the film.
Does it ever feel weird to have your story out there, like to have it so official in a film? Does that feel surreal?
It does feel surreal, but I also wanted to share that for those people that have found family members, siblings, or uncles, or that it's okay. There is nothing wrong with that, and embrace it. I mean, depending of the situations, of course, but in so I've everybody that has come afterwards and tell me, oh my God, my mom has the same story. I have an uncle. I have whatever it is. I feel that I am talking for them. Like it's to share the story for
Yeah,
everybody.
I would say like just also on the level that about how it feels to be telling your story and everything. I think Maria, obviously, for our last 6 films, she's been the producer, and now she's stepped up and be the director, and actually really like the one of the main subject of the film. So that was something that I think initially I had to encourage her with that a little bit, because it is, when you're not coming from a place of being in front of the camera and doing acting and just having that spotlight on you, I think I had to encourage her to do that. And then of course, you know, and of course we got to the discussion of like, should, like, for the narration of the film, should we hire someone to do the narration as if it's Maria talking? And I convinced her, like, no, I think it's going to create a lot more authenticity that it's your story if it's your own voice. So I kind of pushed her out there. And so I think, for her, it probably is a little surreal because she really doesn't come from that background, to see herself and her voice and all that throughout the whole film. So
That was very difficult to record that narration because I am self-conscious about my accent, and I thought nobody's going to understand me when I when I narrate that film.
Very interesting, and I thought you did a great job. So
Well,
there
thank
you
you.
go. So you said, or sorry, rather, which film festivals has this played at? You mentioned Victoria.
right. So we premiered it in October at a film festival in Bellingham, just across the border here near Seattle, an American film festival, documentary festival called Doctober. So that was the world premiere. And then we just screened it about a month ago in Victoria, and that was the Canadian premiere. And so we're still waiting to hear on some other Canadian and North American film festivals as well.
Well, good luck to you there.
Thank you.
Which film should ideally be played after watching your short film Sisters?
Well, I would think that, one of the films I think we used as an inspiration too was the Sarah Polly documentary that she
Yeah.
did, Stories We Tell. We thought that that was an interesting template that we wanted to use as inspiration. Obviously, it's a daughter talking about her mom and her family and parents, and using sort of archival or sort of recreating some aspects of her family with her style of filmmaking. And so we kind of, and that's a very Canadian story as well. Like, and Maria is sort of like, she's a Canadian filmmaker, but obviously she also has that Venezuelan history. So it was really a story of a Canadian filmmaker going back to Venezuela to investigate their family roots and everything. So that was a big one. And then of course,
We saw another one, the British
oh, and
director.
then something like, I would say something too that was also an inspiration was Mike Lee's Secrets and Lies,
Oh,
which is,
yeah, of course.
yeah, which is all
Oh,
about,
wow.
the revelation of like having a daughter that you had for adoption come back into your life or whatever. So like that was the sort of, like, from a fictional film standpoint. Our film obviously is a short documentary, but we still, with documentary or fiction narrative film, it's still about story, and it's still about characters. And so we were inspired by both the documentary film as well as the narrative film.
Do you worry that people are, or maybe I'm getting cynical, but do you think people are ever going to move past cinema? Do you ever worry about the movie theaters?
Well, it's interesting. The very first film we did that played festivals about 10 years ago, it's called Broken Palace. It was a documentary that was about sort of just kind of sounding the alarm about that we were losing a lot of these heritage movie theaters and that experience. So That's something that's always in all of our. We've made now like several films, and it seems like every film has some kind of a thread about the movie going experience and how we really, cherish this idea of going to theaters and having that communal, almost religious experience by seeing movies in the dark with a community of like-minded people. And so, one thing I've noticed, like maybe it's, I don't know what it's like in in where you are, but here in Vancouver now, we've got a couple of movie theaters now that are like, that are showing a lot of repertory movies, movies from the past, and it's very encouraging to see how a lot of the even younger audiences and newer audiences are like flocking to see movies that are like 30 years old, 50 years old. So I'm feeling optimistic in this world of AI and encroaching AI with creativity, that which is another story, but I do feel optimistic that that theater going experience is something that hopefully will stay vital and strong.
All right. Well, I want to stay with you there, and I want to believe you. And some days I do. Some days I get a little worried, though.
Sure.
Yeah. Who makes the best documentaries?
Who makes the best? Well, I mean, you're not talking about between us, are you? No, just kidding.
Who's the second best?
Yeah. No, but I mean, like in terms of people that make documentaries, I mean, there's so many people, and there's a lot of filmmakers that people, that are very known for narrative films, for instance. I mean, like Martin Scorsese makes a lot of documentaries, especially in the realm of music. His George Harrison one, Bob Dylan. So obviously, The Last Waltz. But I kind of like, when it comes to documentaries too, I like the kind of old school, like the Mails brothers at Gimme Shelter and Salesman. Frederick Wiseman, who was a very famous, he just passed away, but he has been spent 5 decades, chronicling, all kinds of subjects. There are a lot of like, and Werner Herzog, he has a new documentary called Ghost Elephants. I mean, he has always been someone that straddled that line between narrative film and doing a lot of documentaries. Same with Wim Wenders. So a lot of those contemporary narrative directors that are kind of famous for their films with actors and all that, I actually, surprisingly, they've got a lot of really impactful documentaries as well.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much for both of your time. It was a lot of fun. The
Thank you.
documentary short is called Sisters. What's the final thought of the interview going to be?
Uh, well, I'll start. I'll just say the final thought for me is like, I really, I'm really grateful that we're working, like Maria and I are still able to make films. And, we make some narrative films, but we really pride ourselves on being able to work on documentaries as well. I feel like, documentaries uh, is something that I think that, it really sheds a lot of light on the world and issues. And I think it's something that everybody can relate to. And one thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking, because we have 4 short films, we're going to be taking them and putting them all together and creating a feature film out of them and showing them all across Canada next year at theaters.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll come to Ottawa as well.
I would love that. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.